why don't we dive into our daily reading from Swami Tadatmanandaji's book called Roar of the Ganges. Here, it is a story of his journey, a Westerner then named Mark, who used to work at a computer engineering consulting firm, I believe, and his journey to India, where he became a Swami, a renunciant. Here, we just met a sadhu, a saint living in the foothills of the Himalayas, who had been meditating in a cave for 10 years without ever speaking. He and his friend Vijay went up there to go meet him, but they were disappointed as they found him reading a newspaper, and he also got angry with one of the devotees that had come to get the blessing of his presence. So Mark was debating with Vijay on the way down the mountain how he could be a spiritual master if he was reading the newspaper and getting angry. Was the sadhu a holy man or a fake? And I have to laugh at Shakira's comment. Me when I go nonverbal. Yes. Whenever you go nonverbal, just remember that that's called Mauna, which is the process of becoming silent for your spiritual growth. And it's a kind of yoga. But was the sadhu a holy man or a fake? This question haunted me as we sat in the shade of a scraggly tree eating some food Vijay had brought along. While he surveyed the meandering course of the Ganges River far below, I thought about how, for thousands of years, Hindu seekers have left their homes to seclude themselves in Himalayan caves or in huts along the banks of sacred rivers. The Hindu tradition is replete with accounts of sadhus who meditated in isolated places for years before finally gaining enlightenment. Ancient texts extol the benefits of renouncing the world and retreating to a secluded place to meditate. Like at parties where things become a little too overwhelming, we find a nice cat or dog to be secluded by emotionally, or maybe we step outside to get some fresh air. There is a kind of healing and kind of deep spiritual process that occurs when we step back from the world. Some contemporary gurus too praise the solitary life, even to audiences of married men and women for whom it is an impossible dream. Because of such tremendous praise, meditation in a secluded place has become an archetype for spiritual life. It has acquired the status of being the ideal lifestyle for the most heroic of aspirants. Captured by this romantic image, many have followed their valiant role models and retreated to isolated places to seek spiritual growth. But as I sat in the tree's shade eating my lunch, I wondered how many of those aspirants actually found what they sought. The silent sadhu seemed to be subject to anger, restlessness, and boredom like anyone else. I wondered if, despite his years of meditation in the cave, he failed to gain enlightenment. There are no guarantees in spiritual life, any more so than in worldly pursuits. Retiring to a cave does not assure one of spiritual success. Maybe the sadhu sought out that cave as a fiery young man, ablaze with enthusiasm to reach the highest goal. Perhaps he took his vow of silence with complete sincerity and total dedication. He must certainly have undergone tremendous hardship over the years. Possibly, after years of intense but unsuccessful meditation, he might finally have concluded that he could not gain enlightenment in this lifetime. Then what would he do next? Having renounced the world to become a sadhu, it is virtually impossible to return to one's former life. In this culture, to turn back is not socially or religiously acceptable. In addition to facing shame and alienation, he could never find employment. So, for those who have left worldly life to seek enlightenment, but have failed in their quest, there is no question of going back. They can only persist in their lifestyle of prayer and meditation and hope to acquire the grace to gain enlightenment in a future life. And while living this humble, prayerful life, their great faith and dedication might inspire others who might look upon them as saints and come to seek their blessings. I eventually realized that to categorically judge the Mauni to be either an enlightened sage or a deceitful impostor is a kind of black and white thinking that I sometimes see in myself and others. This tendency towards good or bad, all or nothing conclusions seems to be a product of Western culture, a culture that has little room for ambiguity, a culture that prefers well-defined categories. But India is home to a culture that embraces reality with all its messy, inconvenient, and category-defining ambiguities. Reality is seldom black or white. So maybe the sadhu was neither an impostor nor an enlightened master, but simply a monk living a prayerful life to the best of his ability. Might that not make him a saint? So we reach the end of this chapter on a silent sadhu. Tomorrow we may begin the next chapter on the search for fulfillment. I thank Swami Tadatmanandaji in writing this book, as well as giving his handwritten blessings for all of us to read. He told me that this book will soon be available for free as a PDF, so I need not encourage you to buy it. Speaking of Swamiji, and I thank you all for listening with me, he also has a chanting for us to recite together, sent to me by his disciple, Sky Guardian. So, before we end this live together, we may chant with him. I'm just gonna take my hair down.